Good morning, everybody. Bujo, that's hello in Potawatomi. Welcome to Star Nation's organization's main fan page and the morning live stream about the card for the day, the energy for the day. Today is Friday, July 20th. Can you believe it? July 20th. This month has flown by, just like all the rest, I suppose. But, I took a look at the calendar this morning and said, oh my God, I got so much to do before the end of the month. So, welcome. I like Fridays. I don't know. It's kind of, hey, Rochelle and Stephanie and Allie and Elise and Marianne. Good morning, ladies. Um, I think it's my feelings about Fridays in general is kind of like a holdover from when I had a 9 to 5. Well, did I ever really have a 9 to 5? Not really. It's because I always put in 10-hour days or 9-hour days, something like that. So, but Fridays, that TGIF feeling. Yeah, I like that feeling. Or the feeling just before the day that you leave on vacation. I love that feeling too. Although I can't remember the last time I took a vacation. Let's see, wait, let me think. It was when we went to Ireland. Yeah, that was 2 years ago? We went to Ireland, Wales, and part of England, Glastonbury. I was with Minnie on that trip and Mystic Travels when it was Mystic Travels with Minnie. Yeah. Hey, speaking of Minnie, good morning, Motto. Last night's premiere show for Nature Adventures, it was fun stuff. And learning about, or how do I say this? Hearing about St. Francis from Minnie's point of view, her perspective, her personal experience with at the Basilica and also at Assisi, and being in the cave entrance where St. Francis did his 40-day pilgrimage. And it's more like a hermitage, I guess, where you got the stigmatas. And so anyway, it was fun last night. I enjoyed myself, and it was fun just talking about that. And that was the first time Minnie had ever shared publicly about her shaman shack on her property. Yeah, so I liked that a lot. It was fun. So what are you ladies saying this morning? Elise is saying, good morning, Rochelle. That was a great show. Yes, it was. And good morning, Allie. And who's got coffee? Who's got tea? Of course, and then there's always the sacred water, right? A little H2O. This is actually my first cup for the day. It was a little busy this morning, just a little bit. Mom was feeling the aches from the weather. We got rain. It started raining yesterday afternoon. No, last night. And yeah, and so which much needed, and it's supposed to rain most of the day today and this evening. We're supposed to get thunderstorms. I can't wait. I love listening to the thunder and the rain on the roof. So anyway, Mom is feeling the aches and pains from that. So we had to deal with some of that this morning. Not huge, but enough, because she's always in pain. It's just a matter of what level. And on that good old scale of 1 to 10, she's probably at a 7 this morning. Yeah. Yep. So Allie's got coffee. Me too. Motto coffee. And Rochelle says ginger peach tea. Ooh, that sounds good too. Ginger peach tea. So last night during the show, Minnie and I were talking about the class that we're co-teaching together in September. It's called Hogwarts, The Magic of Hogwarts. And it's a class really meant for adults. It's a promise that we made years ago to our students when we taught Hogwarts 101 at Great Lakes Retreat, which, by the way, is starting this coming Sunday. Great Lakes Retreat in Olivet, Michigan. But anyway, we had taught that class, and it was a really well-liked class. And the students in there kept wanting to go deeper with the items that we were teaching. And so we promised them that we would do something. Well, that was 6 years ago. So anyway, Minnie and I haven't taught together in about 3 or 4 years. And so we decided this is the year. And so we're starting out with the Magic of Hogwarts. That's September 22nd. And in one of the items that we're going to be doing in that class is a form of divination. And that divination I learned through Ted Andrews. And it's taking floor tile or tub tile, kind of tile, ceramic tile, and using water paints and creating your own kind of divination, right? Through the paints and the tile. And so anyway, I was practicing before we taught that class. And in that practice, because you have to set your intention, right? And I wanted to meet one of my guides, one of my teachers. And so she showed up. And this is what I'm going to see if we can get that on. All right, so this is the tile that I created. This was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And of course I kept it, but I don't want to get it too out of focus. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. And so, with intent and with intuition, I chose the colors, and it was just a drop or so of each of those colors. And then I created the divination, and wanting to know that particular guide or teacher was with me. And this is what came out. Can you see the eye? I want to get the glare on there. Let's see. Oop, out of focus. That's what I get for moving it around. There we go. Yeah. So we're going to be doing one of these tiles in the divination class at divination in the class for the Hogwarts, Magic of Hogwarts. And the other thing we're going to be doing is, I promised you guys that we're going to be making our own medicine pouches. And so we're going to be doing that in that class as well. But did you see the eye? I remember when I first made that tile, it was like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, and she's still with me. And we communicate not quite on a daily basis, but pretty darn close. And yeah, and this is the first time I've ever showed anybody outside of that class this tile. Elisa's saying, raining here too, thunderstorms too. Can't wait. I know it's fun. And Rochelle says, looks good. So today's card draw is a card that we've gotten before. And I'm realizing that every time we have a repeat of a card, it's from it's a deeper look at it, and sometimes even from a slightly different perspective, right? Yeah. Motto saying, that's awesome that she can see the eye clearly. I know, I was so grateful that she allowed herself to be seen as clearly as that, and yeah, I love her, and she loves me. She helps me a lot. Here is the shawl. This is the card that we got today. And it's about returning home. And this is one of the cards that I really like the artwork on this card, with the waterfall and the rainbow, the eagle feathers, the mountains, and also the trees. It's one of my favorite ones. It's kind of, I say that almost about every card. But I do like the artwork. And for those who might be watching, who may not have seen this live stream before, and whether you're watching in the archives or not, or the recorded, I should say. Oops, I always do that upside down. We're using the Sacred Path cards from Jamie Sams, who's the author, the creator of them. And we've been using Jamie since early May, early May. And so we've learned quite a bit through Jamie and the cards, and sensing the energy that's important for us to know today. And so this one is about the shawl and returning home. And, the way Jamie explains this card is that taking up the shawl is a ceremony used by the Paiute Nation. And they created a ceremony for those of their tribal membership coming back home, returning home from time off from the reservation or away from their community, right? And so there was a time in Native America, in Indian country, we call it, that people left their home, whether it was a community or on a reservation. They left looking for work, looking for a way to get out of poverty. And so some of that actually started back in the 40s. It was right out during World War II, and many left to join the military, and so they were gone from home. And some of those people, the men who returned home, some of them didn't return back to their native land, okay, their indigenous land, their indigenous home, and others left to find work because the workforce was really depleted at that time. And so it was a lot of women went to work during World War II. Native women, no different. My mom was one of those women, as well as a few of my aunts. And so they left home, and they spent a good portion of their lives, their adult lives, away from home. And at some point, they made the decision to go home. And the Paiute Nation, what they did was they created a ceremony, a welcoming ceremony for them, for their tribal members returning home. In many ways, it was about picking up, reclaiming, remembering the old ways. Yeah, and it's that generation that went home that started to embrace the language again, and started their healing work, because many of those adults at that time were the ones that were also went to the last stages of the mission school era, and yeah, so that generation took huge steps in different ways. One was survival again, and the other was returning home. And I can remember when my oldest brother, when he went to Vietnam and he returned home, and that was in 68, 69 maybe. I was around 10 years old when he came home. And he had been gone for quite a while, because he volunteered. He wasn't drafted, he volunteered. And he was gone for his basic training and officers training, and then he got his orders to go to Vietnam. And when he returned home, he was so different. He didn't laugh as much. He didn't smile as much. He was not easy to wake up, because Mom sometimes would send me and my youngest brother into his room to wake him up. And sometimes, it was just teasing, but other times it was like stand a few feet away from him, because if it was too much of a surprise, he'd wake up like a bear. And so but he did change, and one of the things that happened for him when he left for Vietnam, there was a ceremony when he left, and when he came home, there was another ceremony. welcoming him back home. And he's one of those people who says, I don't know if it's true or not because he never shares a lot about his emotions, but he says he never had any problems coming back home. That when he went through the airports in his uniform, nobody ever said anything to him, in a way that, yeah, that was kind of mean back then. The soldiers or the military people taking the brunt of the actions of the government, right? The returning military people being spit at and sworn at and told really horrible things. He says that he never went through any of that. But even still, he had a kind of a rough reentry. And I think that ceremony, because I kind of remember it, was a beginning, the beginnings of being, trying to remember what it's like to be home. Yeah. Yeah. Amato saying Indian Relocation Act took them away from home. Yes, it did. Yeah, it did. And that's a phrase that not many people know about. Isn't it right, Mato? The Indian Relocation Act? Yeah. Almost everyone who has an interest in Native America, they know about the Cherokees Trail of Tears, and what and just that phrase, And so hey, Teresa's here. Teresa, one of my sisters, is in the house. Generations that were altered by that forced removal from their home to a place that was foreign to them, and a part of Turtle Island that they'd never been before. And part of this card talks about that, that those who survived realized that home is where your heart is. It's not necessarily a physical place. It can be, and it's all right if it is. But for those that have been removed forcibly from their home, in order to survive on all levels, they have to be able to make that adjustment, and sometimes quite quickly, to create that home feeling, right? And with the Potawatomi, in our removal from the upper Midwest, from Wisconsin, Michigan, northern Indiana area, in that forced removal, it was called the Trail of Death because more than half, about 3/4 of the population died along the way. My great grandparents, my great great grandparents survived, as well as my Micho, my grandfather, who was about 6 or 7 years old when that last removal happened. And so, there's a lot of historical trauma. That's what they call it, historical trauma, that needing to be healed. And I think it's important for all of us to do that around that part of our history, because it's repeating itself again in modern day, right? Children are being taken from their parents again, still. And so when we do our own healing around our inner child, and we've talked about our inner child a lot, is that we're helping to heal that for our ancestors and also for our descendants. And this piece about returning home isn't necessarily always to a physical place. Returning home can be returning to your heart, and healing those aspects of yourself so that your soul is leading and that you're in balance, that that mental aspect of us that we call the ego, that part of us that has that reputation of being out of control, is to have the balance and our gifts shine through, and we live through our hearts. We live through our soul leads, right? And that's our goal for many of us here at Star Nations anyway. That's our goal, is to be able to live through our hearts, to live in peace and joy, and to allow our soul to lead us in the direction that we need to go. Yeah. Elise is saying no written history, so completely lost. No record, she meant. In some cases, yes. In some cases, there was it. If you're talking about Native, Indigenous people, Elise, actually, the records were actually kept fairly well, because the government wants to keep track of us, you know, and so many of the records were kept fairly well, depending on who the agent was, the Indian agent taking down the information. And some of that information has been lost due to fires and water and, damaging records. Other times, if the agent wasn't all that good and rather corrupt, they would give those people that they were enrolling, in other words, taking down their name and their age, who their children were, who their mate was, that kind of stuff. Sometimes they would give people a name just because they couldn't pronounce the native name. They would give them an English name. They'd give them, if because we didn't have the kind of date keeping that the Europeans had, many times they would give the children the birth date of the day that they were enrolled or their name was written down. So some of that information was inaccurate. Yeah. And other times they would put their own relatives on the rolls, and they had no native blood, but their names are on the rolls, and so they were counted as Native American from that particular nation, that tribe, because of the allotment payments. So that meant that their relatives were actually paid that allotment, received the food in that allotment. Yeah. Motto is saying returning home was about calling back in those pieces of ourselves that had left. Our ceremony often brought it back. Yes, absolutely. And Elise is saying you missed a statement above that. Oh, I did? I'm sorry. Oh, I see. You said, Elise said, my great-grandmother died on the Trail of Tears, the Cherokee. Yeah. And so you carry part of that DNA and that historical memory in your DNA, in your body. And that was the healing that I was referring to. And even if you're not Native American and don't have any Native American DNA, you still carry the DNA of those early settlers, possibly even those who were working for the government at that time. So we all need to heal it. We all need to remove that from our memory. In a way, we keep the life lesson from it, but we don't have to hang on to the trauma around it, right? I'm going to bounce back to what Motto said about returning home. It was about calling back in those pieces of ourselves that had left. Often ceremony brought it back. Yeah. And when we look at it from that perspective, it has the feeling of a soul retrieval, okay? And so that we can call back those pieces of ourselves through ceremony. And I think that is one of the reasons why the Paiute Nation created that ceremony for those of their tribal members coming back, and so that they were able to help them bring as much of themselves back into back home, the physical place. But in the way that you're mentioning it, Motto, is that it's also home being our soul, our heart, right? and through trauma, there is that possibility that a part of us stays in that time frame, in a like in a loop there, right? And that piece of us, that fractured piece, um, can come back. It's part of the healing process. Part of the healing process. Yeah. So, um, I just want to make sure that, yeah, here is this part that Jamie writes about. She says, she's talking about the creation of new ceremonies, relatively new, I should say, to the more modern descendants. We see them as traditional. When there was a time when these ceremonies were not a part of the original, how do I want to say that? Because tradition is kind of a relative term, right? Our ancient ancestors didn't have these particular ceremonies, but they were added because they were needed. Like the sharing of the peyote ceremony went from the Yaqui to the Apache, and from the Apache north, right? Until we see it today in more modern times as the Native American Church. And so that's what she's talking about here, that the taking of the shawl is one of the newer ceremonies. And she says many of the teachings mark the hard road back to finding the heart, the spirit, and the home of Native America. And she relates it also to the ghost dance. She says taking of the shawl is a little known Paiute teaching that came into being when some members of the red race could no longer live in the white world, and so they were going home. Many Native Americans who left reservations during the years following the Trail of Tears lost touch with the traditional teachings when they moved to cities in order to find work. Okay. And here's the part that kind of jumped out at me this morning. And, well, you're welcome, Motto. She's saying, exactly. And here's the part that jumped out at me this morning, is that as a Native American woman who has memory about the forced removals, right? And when I say that I have it, it's in my DNA, it's in my bones, right? Is that everyone, it doesn't matter where you're indigenous from, what continent you come from, your people come from, is that we all have that part of us that needs to return home. And I'm thinking about the slavery of the Black people from Africa. I'm thinking, because it wasn't, I mean, they were taken all over the world. It wasn't just to the Americas. They were taken all over the world. The earliest, how do I want to say this? We call it human trafficking. And that's always been done. Two-leggeds have not treated each other well for generations. This isn't anything new. This is something that we have to heal in order to change it. And so, and there's also the Irish that were taken into slavery, indentured servitude, which is just another form of slavery. And so we all carry some aspect of that. And the returning home, the shawl, for those who just joined us, can be a spiritual, an energetic returning. And when we do that healing, we actually heal our ancestors, what I think is really cool. And our descendants don't have to carry that trauma with them the way that we have. And so for me, that's part of my healing process, right? I've had Native women, well, we'll just say, Native Americans, where we've had the discussion about not being able to forgive. And so they carry that with them. And, they say some hate-filled things about Europeans. And I can understand how they feel, but that's just perpetuating the hate, perpetuating the trauma. Yeah. Oh, and Rochelle, you're right. The Chinese too. Absolutely. And Mado's saying the problem was that we could not even legally do many of our ceremonies. Exactly. We could not practice our beliefs openly until that time. Absolutely correct. 1978. 1978. Yeah. And that's kind of where the myth or the stereotype also gets started, because many non-natives didn't understand that we, at that time, didn't have the only way that we could continue our beliefs, our religious beliefs, was to hold our ceremonies out in the middle of nowhere, and many times in the dark, only but lit by firelight. My grandpa was like that, my Misho. A lot of times the dream drum, the big drum, was done at night because it was illegal otherwise. Yeah. So, we carry that, those memories, those cellular memories. And so when we're going home, when we're talking about returning home for all of us, we're healing that aspect of ourselves and returning home, becoming more whole, if you will. Yeah. Letting go of the hate, letting go of the unrest, so that we can find peace, right? Harmony. That's what everybody talks about, that oneness stuff, that wholeness stuff, what is that going, what is that saying? Returning to the one, going home. And another way to look at it, because we use this term a lot too. When somebody walks on, when somebody dies, passes away, we talk about them going home, their spirit going home, going back to the Creator, going back into spirit, right? That's another returning home. Yeah. It's a deep, deep morning, you guys. Returning home. But that was the aspect of the card that we really didn't touch on before. Here's one paragraph that I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it. I had to sit with this one a little bit, so I want to share it with you. Jamie Sams writes, she says, the difference between the people and those people, those phrases, is that the people have stayed on the sacred path because the behavior of those people has reminded them of why they need to walk in beauty. This teaching applies to every race. The people are those who have taken the shawl and live in harmony, honoring the sacred space of all life forms. And I think that's what we were just talking about. It doesn't matter, I don't think it doesn't matter what continent your people came from. It doesn't matter when or where they immigrated to, or it doesn't matter when or where they were forcibly taken and removed. It doesn't matter. We have to heal that. That's my 2 cents. And eventually we'll reach a tipping point. That 100th monkey thing, right, is that we'll reach a tipping point with that if we all take responsibility to heal that aspect that we carry in our cellular memory. And my suggestion, why not? My suggestion is, why not I could ask Polly Joe about that, whether she can do that in her chakra sessions um, live stream show on Tuesdays during the day, or we can make an intention that we listen to one of her Wednesday shows in the evening, and the intention be set that our spiritual team help us to heal that aspect of ourselves that holds that historical trauma, that cellular memory of being taken from our homes. We can do that, and Polly Joe is providing the sacred space for that, and we can tap into that. Or you can do it your own way. It's just a suggestion, because ultimately it's individually, it's our responsibility and our decision to make that. But this is one way that not only do we heal ourselves, but we help the world. We help the two-leggeds on grandmother Earth here as a whole. Yeah, can you imagine that ripple effect? Holy smokes. Holy smokers. She also says, Jamie says, taking on the shawl also means that one is willing to exchange information and then allow all traditional teachings to live so that the goodness of each can be shared by the many. It is time to let go of the I and take the shawl that covers the eternal we. I like that. And I think we just did that. Because of all the different races. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. We all have had some aspect of that historical trauma. And so whether we're on the receiving side or if we were on the giving side of that, we all have that place in us that can be healed, right? To let go of that, I can remember, and I still hear it in my own family, and most of us are married to non-natives. It's like, and we have relatives in my own family that talk about white people, and I'm just staring at them and thinking, what? Okay, see that child? They're half European. They have European blood in them. What are you saying about them? And eventually I will say something out loud. It's like, I think you have to rephrase that, or you know what? Not welcome here. That sentiment's not welcome here. We're supposed to be having good thoughts today. We're going to be going into ceremony. Change that thought. Yeah. One of my brothers doesn't like me talking that way, but I do. Okay, so the application of this card is you are being invited to return home. Now is the time to remember your essence and your potential. It's time to come home to the loving heart and see the value in all paths and chosen lessons. Wearing the shawl is coming home to the arms of the Earth Mother and being loved. The responsibility of taking the shawl is being loving to others who have forgotten the sacred path or the way home. I like that. And that last sentence reminds me of light workers. The responsibility of taking the shawl is being loving to others who have forgotten the sacred path or the way home. And there's a meme. Isn't there a meme about we're all just walking each other home? Kind of takes on another meaning, doesn't it? Motto. What are you saying, Motto? She says, one of my goals along this path is not to allow terminal uniqueness to reside within me, i.e. all traditional cultures have had their trauma that we can relate to and heal. Look for the similarities and not the differences. Yes. Motto, you and I are going to have to meet in person one of these days because I feel the same way. I do. That we are more alike than we are different. And even biologically, scientifically, our DNA are more alike than it is different. I think it's like 99.8 the same, and most people focus on the 0.02% that were different instead of looking for the things that we have in common. Yeah. Rochelle saying, I see a raccoon just left of the shawl. Okay. Okay, let's see. I'm going to hold it again and see what if anybody else can see the same thing. I just want to hold it straight and not with a glare. Raccoon just left of the shawl. I'm sorry, Rochelle. I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe I'm not supposed to have raccoon medicine today. I don't know. Maybe raccoon medicine is for you, Rochelle. Possible. Okay, so here's the poem about the shawl. Okay. I love Jamie Sam's poetry. I just do. She says, Earth Mother welcomes her children home when they have lost their way. The trail was lonely and so long. She whispers for them to stay. Within the protection of the shawl, where love abides again, their hearts may open to recall all relations as their friends. I like that. I like the part where Grandmother Earth whispers for them to stay. I can hear that, right? The call. All right, so Rochelle is saying, oops, I lost the card. I stuck it in the book. Here it is. So Rochelle is saying on the top left of the word shawl, top left of the left. Oh, you mean along the edge there, just underneath the S? Maybe. I don't know. Possible. I think the raccoon medicine is for you, Rochelle. We should probably look that up. Stephanie's not in the house this morning, is she? I didn't see her name because she does such a good job in helping us to take a look at the medicine of those. So when I was asking which animal relative could help us understand the essence of the shawl card with clarity and with depth, right? And this is who came. Buffalo, Tatanka, in Lakota. Yeah. When I got that one, what went through my head, my brain was good one. It's like, yeah, we got buffalo medicine. Also, Matosat, very good, very, very good. Yay. All right, so here's the information about buffalo. For Jamie Sams, it means prayer in abundance. And some of most of her information is coming from her Seneca beliefs. Right? I'm trying not to get the glare in there for you. She says in the Lakota tradition, it was the white buffalo calf woman who brought the sacred pipe to the people and taught them how to pray. And, and I think that we've all, most of us anyway, have heard that prophecy about white buffalo calf woman. And this is one of those sentences that really shows what decade this book was written in, because there's one thing that came out of the water protection at Standing Rock in North Dakota was the understanding of how, is it 7, 8 bands of the Oceti-Sakowee, which is the Great Sioux Nation. Lakota is just one of them. And when they come together, when they're talked about as one, they're the Oceti-Sakowee. And I was actually there when they put all the lodges together, and they call it the horn, if I remember right. The horn is when they're all together and they have the combined um, wisdom and leadership there. And that was just happened to be the weekend that we showed up. It wasn't, and we were only there for what, 5 days. Yeah. And so to have them all together, the Osheti Sakoi. Michelle is saying the water buffalo, she thinks is her power animal. Whoa, okay. That's a lot. That's some big energy. Just like the American bison, the buffalo is huge energy, huge. And she says, Jamie Sams writes, says that the appearance of the white buffalo is a sign that prayers are being heard. The sacred pipe is being honored, and the promises of the prophecy are being fulfilled. White buffalo signals a time of abundance and plenty. She did say that the buffalo is a major source of sustenance for the Plains Indians. And that is true. That is true, and it was true definitely for our ancestors. But buffalo ranged more than just in the Great Plains, yeah, on the west of the Mississippi. They were actually east of the Mississippi as well. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because we had buffalo here in Wisconsin. I think it has more to do with the Great Plains. And in Wisconsin, the Great Plains starts in south central Wisconsin, near where I used to live, Poinet, is called the Empire Prairie. And as further south you go, the topography kind of flattens out because it's a part of the plains. And so the buffalo were used to actually reside here naturally. So she also says that the medicine of buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for what has been received. Buffalo medicine is also knowing the abundance is present when all relations are honored as sacred and when gratitude is expressed to every living part of creation. I like that part. That gratitude is expressed for every living part of creation. And in my world, and I know that there's community members here at Star Nations that have the same outlook or belief, is that everything has life. Everything has a spirit within. And I know that there's some people who say that we worship desks and rocks. And of course, rocks are alive. There are record keepers. And if it's a desk, and I don't care what it's made out of, there was a two-legged that had something to do with that. And so part of their essence is embedded in that piece of furniture. And if it's made out of natural products like wood, it still carries the essence, the spirit of whatever tree they used. So yes, we don't worship the desk, but we're respectful of the spirit that lies within, right? I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? So anyway, buffalo. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner and to give praise for the richness of life to be shared with all races, all creatures, all nations, and all life. It means smoking for others so that their needs are met, praying for the good of all things in harmony, and accepting the great mystery as part of that harmony. Hey, Amy Daniel is just joined us. Hi, Amy. And it says to honor another's pathway, even if it brings you sadness, is part of the message that buffalo brings. This may be a time of reconnection to the meaning of life and the value of peace. Most assuredly, this time will bring serenity amidst chaos if you pray in earnest for enlightenment and the power of calmness and give praise for the gifts that you already have. She goes on to say that buffalo medicine is a sign that you have achieved nothing without the aid of the Great Spirit and that you must be humble enough to ask for that assistance and then be grateful when you receive it. I like that. There's a lot there. And when you put it in relation to the essence of the shawl card, is that we're being provided for no matter where we are, and to ask for assistance, just like we were talking about in doing our own healing, and asking our spiritual team to help us to do that healing. Maybe going to another healer to be able to do that kind of healing that we're taking responsibility for, and that we're being respectful of others' perspectives, and we're reaching for that peace, right? That peace. Amy is saying, I look forward to listening on the bus ride home this evening. Oh yeah. Hey, we all use those recorded videos of the live stream shows, because I can't make it to every single one of them. I really try. It's one of my priorities, right? But there's times like when I have to attend to mom, or I have another business call, because that's the only time I can sit down with the other person to talk. And so it doesn't happen all that often, but it does. So I like our recorded shows too. Jamie also says that become buffalo, feel the smoke of prayer and praise, change your buffalo robe to white so that you may be an answer to the prayers of the world. Yeah. And when I read that sentence, you know what I thought about, what it felt like to me, is lately we've been talking about how Grandmother Earth and her vibration, her frequency is increasing. And she's moved from third dimensional vibration into the fourth dimensional vibration frequency. And she is making her move into the fifth. And so in order for us to follow and be with her, we have to raise our frequency. And when we do that, we get closer and closer to the frequency that we came in with, our original vibration, our soul song. And so this is what this last sentence reminds me of, is that when we do our work, and when we do our manifestation to bring our prayers and our wants, needs, our desires to the earth plane, to the physical, right? To the physical in that manifestation, is that to manifest it and ground it through our body, because that's our connection here, to the fourth dimension, Grandmother Earth. Yeah. And so putting on the white robes, right? I like that. The other thing that I was thinking about buffalo is that, have you ever been near a buffalo herd? Whether it is, we have a buffalo herd here that I went to go visit a couple years ago, in northeastern Wisconsin, near the Forest County Potawatomi reservation. There is a farm that has buffalo, and they had a white buffalo calf that was born a couple of years ago, and so I went to go visit, and so spent a little time with part of that herd. But we also, Paul and I, had experienced a wild herd in the Wichita Mountains in Oklahoma, near Lawton, Fort Sill area. I tell you what, if you're carrying buffalo medicine, it's big medicine. It's got a big energy. And so there's no hiding. There is no sneaking up on somebody. When you come into the room and you're carrying buffalo medicine, you're going to get some attention, because people are going to feel you even before you get there. You could be out in the parking lot, because when they run, literally it sounds like thunder. And when they run in a herd, when they're running on their own, because we had to stop. Well, this is in Oklahoma. We had to stop to let some buffalo cross the road, because they had already started, and we came up over this little rise, and so we stopped. And of course they were taking their time, right? And so Paul and I are just watching them and realizing that they were all cows. And And instead of crossing the road, some of them did. Some of them actually walked toward us and were around the truck. And so we thought, oh, this is so cool, and there weren't any babies, but there were young ones. And Paul had his window open a bit. It was like maybe not quite half. And you could hear something coming in the distance. And over this hill, a lone buffalo is running right at us. And you could hear him. The closer he got, the louder it got. And it was a bull. And he was coming for the cows. And I don't know. Paul's truck was black, so I don't know what this male buffalo saw, but he didn't like us being around his women. And I tell you what, oh my gosh, I laugh about it now, but it was a little intense there for a while. The bull runs right directly to the truck, and the closer he got, Paul is trying to get, instead of putting the window up, like the window was going to keep a male bull out, right? That's what I thought. Roll up the window, but no. Paul is moving away from the window and practically on the console area, coming toward me. Oh my God! And this male literally is running, and he counted coup on our truck. He didn't touch it, but he came pretty dang close to the truck. And when I was reading about the buffalo medicine this morning, it reminded me of that. And I was thinking, anybody who is carrying buffalo medicine as a totem or as a power animal, it's big medicine, literally. And there's no way that someone could not sense your energy because it is big, a big energy field. Yeah. So there's no sneaking up on somebody. there's no trying to hide behind a tree. No. People, you're going to be seen. Motto saying, no sneak up on anyone to carry, but exactly none. Counting coup left his slobber. Well, sorta, really, sorta. He just didn't. I don't know. We were very quiet. Paul and I didn't even talk. And eventually the herd kind of moved off enough for us to be able to go around them, right? And yeah, that's one thing I'll never forget. That was in the, I think it was like in 99, I think. Something like that. So with buffalo medicine and Shawl, going home, returning home, think about it. How can you, as an individual, return home to your center, to your heart? And if it's returning to your physical home, some of that is healing too, right? Sometimes the harder part. Because you have, some people have tough memories about their physical home and as their childhood home, right? My husband's here. He's going to see if I'm done yet. Not quite. We're just finishing up. If you want to come say hi, you can. He's all of a sudden he's shy, and he's not shy by any means. So anyway, that any of the information that was shared this morning, please just take what resonated with you. And if it didn't, just okay, let it go. Maybe you can share it with someone else. Maybe you're the messenger. And watch how the energy unfolds, the day unfolds for you, and how the shawl medicine, the essence of that card, how does it come to you? And tapping into the buffalo medicine to help you understand it a little bit better. Yeah. So enjoy the rest of your Friday. Hey, Sunday, if you're not busy, join me at 3 p.m. Central. That's 4 Eastern. Merv, Kelly, and I are teaming up one more time this month for caring for elderly parents. It's a series that we're doing. And join us, it'll be good. We're talking about alternative therapies and natural remedies, the things that we know that has helped us take care of our elderly moms and have a conversation about it. So enjoy your Friday. I'll see you tomorrow, Saturday, for the card draw information. Bama Mina, until we see each other again.